Our guest tonight is Limitless Keith Lee. How you doing, man?
Well, I'm quite wonderful as expected and quite honored to be on the show, so I just want to take the time to thank you for having me, man.
Oh, if you only knew how lowbrow we really were, you wouldn't be thanking us. But I do appreciate you patronizing me. That does make me feel good. I'll tell my wife and child about it. Let's get right into it. With an incredible moveset and big man power, was it always your plan to break the mold of what wrestlers your size can do in the ring? And how much joy do you take from seeing people's faces when they first see you fly?
Honestly, it was never my intention to break the mold because that's not what I was taught. Um, I was taught the very opposite, that I was not supposed to leave the mat and my feet should stay on the ground and all the things you would expect for wrestling as a, air quotes, big guy. It took a few conversations in 2013 that kind of made me say, never mind, I'm going to do what I want to do. And the moment that I did, that's when things started changing. So, to say the very least, to see responses to the things that I do, or even hear them, because I hear them more often than I see them. There's probably nothing that brings me more joy than seeing how people react to the things that I do inside the ring.
Mike Yuri?
Just over the past month or so, you faced a lot of different types of opponents. Big, powerful guys like Cage, smaller, quicker guys like Ricochet. For you, given the choice, what type of opponent and what type of style do you prefer to wrestle?
When it comes to me and myself, I take the terminology limitless quite literally. There is not a certain type of style or size that I prefer. The only thing that I require is a proper competition. I like the top-notch talent. I like to face the guys that are going to push me and challenge me. And those are the things that excite me in the ring. Whether you're big or small or strong or fast is irrelevant to me, because if you're good, then you're good and you're going to bring it. And if you bring it, well, that's just the type of competition I enjoy. So those are the things I enjoy in the ring.
Brandon Gavin?
Well, we saw you wrestle Jeff Cobb in a great match at Beyond Wrestling's Caffeine during WrestleMania weekend. How special was that weekend for you, opening the show at midnight, putting on awesome matches, and then being named the More Than Mania MVP?
Well, first, I want to take the time to thank the fans, because the amount of support that I had in terms of being voted MVP was absolutely ridiculous. I think somebody screenshotted it to me at 53%. Out of 4 guys, that's absolutely unheard of, especially when you have guys like Matt Riddle and Zack Sabre Jr. in the choices. So thanks to the fans for that. Beyond always holds a very special place in my heart, because that was the very first place that I got a major look in terms of East Coast wrestling. And that very first match I had with Donovan Dijak there really transformed my wrestling world in about 48 hours. So it was very special to be there for them. And the weekend itself, man, it was just an amazing weekend overall, just getting the chance to wrestle that much and introduce myself to so many new fans and see the types of effects I have on people that have never seen me before. It was just intense and emotional, and I'm just a grateful dude to be in a position to get those opportunities, and I just will continue to keep trying to capitalize on them.
Well, a large part of our fan base doesn't necessarily watch a lot of independent wrestling. There are a lot of WWE fans, and there's so much goddamn WWE content that it's hard to watch anything else. Well, just like many other independent wrestlers, we don't know much about you and how you got into the sport. So tell us quickly, how did you get into wrestling, and what are some of your biggest influences?
I've told this story a few times, and it probably throws people off each time I tell it. But I'm not average guy that was influenced by his favorite wrestler as a young child or anything of that sort. The reason I had an interest in wrestling is because my grandmother loved professional wrestling very, very much. And she introduced me to it when I was very young. And while my cousins kind of grew up and out of it and away from it to an extent growing up, I just kind of was stuck there. And I suppose by college I was playing football. And I guess her love for wrestling transferred into me because I made a decision as a freshman in college that wrestling was what I wanted. And I was willing to do whatever it took to go after it, chase after it. What I consider the grind, and that's pushing forward and reaching as far as I can. So her love actually transferred to me, and wrestling just became this passion of mine. At the moment that I found my place of training, it became part of me, and it's been that way ever since.
Mike Chiari?
You've mixed it up with many of the top wrestlers on the independent scene already, but who are some of the wrestlers, whether they're independent or in WWE or anywhere else for that matter, that you haven't faced yet but would like to eventually?
There's a few names that float around a lot of people kind of toss me into. And when I think about it, I think that they would create some absolutely ridiculous matches. First and foremost is probably Cesaro. He is absolutely ridiculous in terms of athleticism and power and agility. He's a package of somebody that I think that I would mesh with very well. Somewhat like I think Donovan Dijak's pretty similar to him, and I really like mixing it up with him. People have brought up Brock Lesnar, and I think that would be a very interesting match to see. A personal want for me, and it's very selfish, but in terms of my current, I may not have had influences growing up, but in terms of people that have influenced my style and my hybrid ways in wrestling now, Kurt Angle. That's a match that I personally want. It's number one on my list, has been for years, and probably will be forever because I don't know how much longer he'll be doing this thing. So,
Brandon Gavin?
What was your ultimate goal, to wrestle in WWE, or do you have aspirations of achieving something else?
I wouldn't say I have an ultimate goal, man. I think when I was younger, WWE was everything to me, and I was under their umbrella from 2008 to 2013, and I chose to break out of that when I made changes to myself. And so I have other goals now, not ultimate goals, but I've accomplished most of them. Right now, my number one goal is to wrestle in Japan. And if I can accomplish that this year, then hey, that's great. If WWE ends up somewhere or a place that has interest in me, then of course I'm going to look at that. I mean, who wouldn't? But right now, in terms of just a realistic thought process, wrestling in Japan is something I really want to do.
Well, the first time many fans had the opportunity to see you was during your time with Ring of Honor. But you are now signed with Evolve. How did Ring of Honor help you build your notoriety? And why was signing with Evolve the best move for you at this point in your career?
Interestingly enough, I don't think that I built much notoriety with Ring of Honor because the growth that I've had has been in singles competition. And it didn't really come, like people didn't really look to book me regularly until after I debuted with Beyond Wrestling in May of last year. And that was kind of what caused an explosion in my wrestling career. Now, obviously, I'm most known when people look up things and they see I was part of Ring of Honor, then they pay attention to that. Or people that have watched Ring of Honor, they've seen some of my tag team work there. But in terms of my singles growth, there really hasn't been much in terms of that. So it's been great to be a part of Ring of Honor, and I'm sure that a lot of companies have enjoyed plastering those three letters on their flyers. And then there's some places like England and whatnot that have kind of taken notice of that, and that's somewhat made big deals. But in terms of singles competition, it really hasn't done much.
Now, why was signing with Evolve the best move for you right now in your career?
Evolve was a very special scenario because obviously I had an offer from Ring of Honor on the table as well. And that was a very tough decision because, of course, I thought a lot about Shane in those moments. The reason, and a lot of it is talking to mentors of mine, people with a lot of experience in this, and I've dealt with in the past or may guide me in certain scenarios. And basically looking at my opportunities available with Evolve and the actual want from Evolve to make use of my abilities was a much greater situation in terms of Evolve versus the unknown of Ring of Honor. I don't know what position I would have been in or what opportunities I may have been granted, but I've done singles competition for my entire career, and I did not do tag wrestling until they put me and Shane together at Ring of Honor. So it was nice to get an opportunity to branch out and go back to singles. I also knew right out the gate I would have some great opportunities to wrestle people I wanted to wrestle and get those higher level matches and not show off just for myself, but for Evolve as well. And I know that they place a lot of value in me. And it's been shown, it's been proven, it's been communicated, and all those things meant a lot to me on a personal level and a business level. The communication was one of the major factors that made that decision a little easier for me.
Mike Chiari?
What's your favorite match that you've had so far in your career, and what kind of made it more special and stood out to you above all the rest?
Ooh, that's difficult. I've had some great matches with some great guys. But I think that the last match I had, so it's kind of a tie actually between the match I had with Ricochet at Evolve 80 and the match I had with Donovan Dijak at Evolve 81. Ricochet because that's somebody I've wanted to wrestle for a long time, and it was a great honor to share the ring with him, even though I got kicked in the head a lot and jumped on a whole lot. But the match with Dijak was probably more so on a personal level because even though we beat the crap out of each other in the ring, we are great friends. And I respect the things that he does in the ring because he is a giant aerialist, and nobody sees that. Some people don't like it because he wrestles like a cruiserweight, even though he's 6'7", 270. But when he gets into a ring with me, who's somebody that can literally throw him around an entire match, which I did, it created very special moments that people just don't see out of big guys because we are... It sounds arrogant, but the reality is he and I are very superior athletes. We've both been referred to as hyper athletes. Some people now call me a super athlete. But for me and him, that moment was almost a chance to say, hey, don't count us out. Big guys can do this too. And we had a chance to create magic in something that fans probably never thought they'd ever see. And it's always an honor to share the ring with him.
BG, final question?
Last month, ESPN ran a feature on your background, your style of wrestling, and a lot more. How has that exposure helped you in the past month, whether it be from receiving booking opportunities or just your confidence in general?
I don't really think it's helped with my booking opportunities, and if it has, I don't know. I'll just put it that way. If it has, it's not been anything that's brought to my attention. But it has probably brought some eyes in my direction and made them pay a little more attention to me And for me personally, I had no idea that it was going to be as big a deal as it was. And I think more than anything, it's something that was an honor for me to be a part of and have my name plastered on there and to be somebody in this sport that people look to as a game changer, because that's what my aim is to be. I don't want to. I understand I'm a big guy. However, I don't want to be locked in that box because that's not my style. I am a hybrid athlete. More importantly, I am an athlete, regardless of what size I am. So right away, I'm going to be different from an average professional wrestler. I do this thing a little bit different, and it's something I take pride in. And that article is something that takes notice of that and puts it on a pedestal. And I'm super duper proud of it.
Well, a huge thank you to our guest tonight, Keith Lee. Catch him stealing the show all over the independent scene as one of the hottest acts in the business today. Tell the fans where you will be wrestling next and where they can support you on social media.
Well, guys, you can catch me on April 15th at Pro Wrestling Magic. I'll be going one-on-one with Mr. The Juice, JT Dunn. After that, notice that's one match this weekend because I was smart about my post-wrestling WrestleMania bookings. I was a little beat up after that. But directly the weekend after that, April 21st, you can find me at PWG going head-to-head with the Boulder Jeff Cobb. That's not really his nickname. That's just what I call him. Don't call him that, guys. He might get mad. After that, you can catch me at Evolve in Queens and in Brooklyn. And there'll be some double shots with Tier 1. So that should be fun and a couple opportunities there. If you have not seen Tier 1, then you will get a chance to see Keith Lee versus Chris Dickinson, which a lot of people have been wanting. And so that'll be the first place that happens.
How about social media? How can they follow you?
Oh, easy peasy. Most of my stuff is nice and streamlined for everybody. Instagram and Twitter are both at Real Keith Lee, all together. Keith, not IE. I know you want to do it because English is terrible sometimes. Then after that, there's Facebook.com/Real Keith Lee. If you're looking for merchandise, which there will be more available here soon, my hats will hit my store very quickly. That is bottomlinemerch.com/Keith Lee.
Fantastic. Another huge thank you to Keith Lee for coming on the show. Good luck moving forward, sir. We got our eyes on you, man.
Thank you for having me, guys. It was an honor.